Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Nicole. I'm an American living the last few decades in New Zealand, and right now I'm going through a bit of a weird moment because today I'm here to talk to you about how I've decided to move out of my house and live out of a suitcase for the rest of the year. No rent, no home base, just a suitcase, and some hope that I'm going to fix my life this way somehow. Right now, there are a few things coming together for me all at once, and I have opportunities that are aligning now that might not align for me again. And I think that missing this call to action might mean missing my chance for life to suddenly get really, really good. So if this is something that interests you, stick around because I've got all the details in this video, and at the end, I'll share a useless nerdy fact with you. Also, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe because that is how my video gets out in front of new people. So this is the situation. I live in an apartment in Wellington, New Zealand, and the roof leaks, and my flatmate and I just like awkwardly don't talk to each other, and I don't love it here. And I don't want this for myself. And I wasn't told about the leaky roof before I moved in. And this isn't even the worst living situation I've had this year. I have moved 3 times in the last year. I'm sick of these life lessons, and I'm too old to be dealing with this crap. And it's currently quite hard to find flatmates in New Zealand. So I think that this year is the result of people just being desperate and like omitting things just to make a flat more appealing. So I've kind of been tricked a few times. So, all of these bad experiences have forced me to face my home life and to question what I really want. And I actually hate it here. I hate it here so much that I thought about breaking my lease and finding a better place. But I'm just worn out from moving so much, and I only have a few months left of my lease to go. My flatmate also tried to break her lease, so it's not been good for both of us. So I'm taking this opportunity to make some drastic life changes. I'll stay put until the lease runs out, which is in about 2 months. After that, I'm packing up everything I own, putting it into a suitcase, and moving into my friend's house for a couple months because they need a house sitter. So it's really beneficial for both of us. After that, I'm going to Portland, Oregon, which is where I'm from originally. I am lucky I can work overseas for a couple months out of every year as part of like a perk that I get from my job. I don't really take advantage of it very often, so this is something I haven't done for a while. And then after Portland, I will come back to New Zealand, find another temporary living situation, and like just really take my time to look for a good spot this time, not being like panic. I need a new place. I think that if I take my time, then I'll find a good place that really suits me. I think that the timing is really important for me at the moment. Not only is it the end of my lease, but it also perfectly aligns with the start of the cold weather in Wellington. And that means I can spend a couple months in summer in the Northern Hemisphere. It's also a good time for my job. Like I mentioned, I have the ability to work overseas for a couple months. So it's like a perk that's super valuable for me, especially since my family lives overseas. And I can't really afford to do it every year. So it has been like 3 years since I went over last. So I am due a visit. I work in tech, and currently my job is still safe from being taken over by AI. And I mean, like, it's still safe currently. So what that means is I might not always have this ability to go work overseas. This is a perk that I have now. It's not a perk that's in any other job that I'm aware of. So my time in this job could potentially be limited as they start reducing headcount for AI. So I feel like now is the time, and I might not get another chance. And since the end of my lease aligns nicely with the timing for this trip, there's like the overlapping opportunity to not have to pay rent for a few months. Now is the time. Obviously, this is not something that everyone feels comfortable doing, and I'm personally motivated by how terrible my last year has been. In one of the flats I lived in, I was so uncomfortable in my own home, and I was not financially secure enough to get myself out of it. So, a lot of what I will gain out of this is financial. Having to not pay rent for several months is amazing. Here are the 3 things that I'm hoping to gain out of this. First one is financial stability. I just paid off my student loan, and that means I'm going to have some extra money in every paycheck. And instead of just blowing that money, I want to have a plan for it. In case you're wondering how I paid off my student loan, just remember that I live in New Zealand and we have different student loan situations. So the government actually takes money out of your paycheck before tax, and you kind of have no choice but to pay it back. So it just comes out. So that's how I did it. I had no choice. So now that's done, and I'm on the other side of this. So I can use that money to, do other things. Instead of blowing it, I want to make it work for me. So I'm going to pay off my debt with that money. That money, I've become accustomed to not having it. So get rid of it. I don't have a lot of debt, but the amount of money that you put towards debt is money that you're not keeping for yourself. And because I want to be able to live alone, so I need to kind of reduce that so that I can have better a better life. I can afford a better life. The second thing is a safety net. The money I would normally be putting towards rent can instead be put away into a savings account. The cost of living in New Zealand has really crept up, and it's crept up over and over again. Everything I buy here is more expensive, and many people are actually leaving the country to be able to afford to live. I know people who've been unemployed for like 1 year or 2 years, and it's kind of because the government did this mass layoff this several times. They laid off tons of people, and we're just a small country, so that kind of thing really impacts us. I know that it's really hard in other countries too, but our entire population is really small. Like the whole of New Zealand's population is like the size of LA. When we have mass layoffs, it really affects us. So a lot of people are moving overseas and they're doing it in droves. And the people who remain are still struggling to survive, and I am one of them. For a while there, it seemed like almost every day I would hear about someone moving to Melbourne, or like a restaurant or a bar is closing down because they just can't afford to stay open anymore because people can't afford to go out. So people aren't spending money. So it really does affect my ability to save a safety net. This is obviously particularly important because I work in tech. AI is possibly coming for my job at some point. Even if AI doesn't replace me, the headcount might be reduced. So I might as well prepare. Third thing is clarity. After the year I've had, I don't want to experience this kind of stress ever again. So I know what I don't want, but I don't really know what I want anymore. I know I don't want a flatmate. That's quite a big ask in New Zealand because people my age are still unable to afford to buy a house. The average cost of a house in Wellington is actually $800,000. And guess what? We're not making near that annually. And I don't really remember what it looks like to feel secure in my home, like either financially or emotionally, just because I've been with flatmates for so long. I can either risk another bad flatmate and save money, or I can live alone and be broke and free. And neither of those are great options. And I'm really social. So when I don't have flatmates, it's like I have to then afford to go out and, have a social life. And I can't afford to go out and have a social life and live alone in New Zealand. So this is all kind of like part of the puzzle I'm trying to solve. So paying off debt and doing all these things, it's really going to matter. I kind of hope to find out what I would do if I felt more secure. The logistics of getting this sorted is maybe a bit bigger than I've realized yet. I've never lived rent free, and I've not lived out of a suitcase. I mean, I have gone backpacking, but that was just for like 5 weeks. And I don't think that traveling and living out of a suitcase are the same thing. Traveling is more like an adventure. I will be in places that I've considered home. These are familiar places for me. Going to work, living minimally in the world I've already built for myself. So, over the next few months, I need to accomplish a few things to make this possible. I need to work out what is coming with me, what is not. I need to come up with a kind of a capsule wardrobe that will work for both Wellington and my trip back to America. And I need to see where I have extra things lying around the house that I use frequently, which can be reduced. Just things I don't need to take with me. Like, for example, like when I go work out, I like to do boxing, and maybe I don't need to have my own boxing gloves. That'll be harder to carry around with me. I also need to really up my budget. This is going to be a bit more of a challenge. I'm good with budgeting, I'm good with my finances, but like this is going to kind of force me to up my game financially. I'm basically setting myself up to live what I'm calling a capsule lifestyle. Everything in compact, easy to move, flexible, and only what I need. So if you've made it this far, I promised I'd share a nerdy fact with you. And that fact is that when the wheeled suitcase was invented, which was in the 70s, it wasn't really accepted. It took several years to get it to market because it was considered unmanly to not carry your suitcase. Obviously, I don't think that's cool, um, but that is your nerdy fact for you. So I'll be releasing videos on my progress, and I'll be looking at my capsule wardrobe, looking at my budget, and just kind of breaking down details of my trip, like where I'm staying, what I'm keeping, what I'm letting go of, and just details about my trip to America. If that's something you want to follow along with, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.